We will get started in a couple of minutes. Welcome everyone to our presentation about the LinkedIn universe. Sometimes it seems like we are in outer space, and no matter how hard we try to navigate, it still seems like there's a lot of unknown. So that's the reason why I decided to show this little picture that it's the galaxy of unknown, but if you know how to navigate through it and you have the tools and the skills and the right equipment, then you can start making it through outer space. So we will take a look closely at what needs to be done. And this is the perfect time of the year to get you all set up on how to navigate through the universe of LinkedIn. So in just one more minute, we're going to get started. And thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. I thought it was the perfect time, as maybe many of you will have a few days off for the holidays. It's a great time to get reconnected and to navigate through the universe of LinkedIn. So let's get started. Welcome to the webinar that MTV Coaching is hosting today on the LinkedIn universe. Many of you have used LinkedIn. Many of you are learning how to use LinkedIn better. A few of you are maybe experts. There's never such a thing as an expert. I've been an early adapter of LinkedIn since 2006, and I'm still not an expert. But I do understand how it works. I understand how the algorithm works, and I have been able to share with the community of job seekers on how to navigate through this really complex system, which sometimes feels like outer space. So for many of you, let me just figure out how to click through. Next slide. Okay, so for many of you who are seeing me for the first time, welcome, and it's a pleasure to meet you. Who am I? My name is Coach Michelle Perchuk, and I am an award-winning coach. I have been responsible for thousands of careers, thousands of lost job seekers to land their amazing dream jobs. I've been awarded the Coaches Council certification by Forbes magazine 3 years in a row. I've had over 15 years, actually 18 years in recruiting, human resources, talent acquisition in my prior career. And I have been coaching and doing career progression coaching for the past 7 years. I have had experience with almost every Fortune 1000 company globally. And I also have a very sought after certification, a PCC level from the ICF, which is the International Coaching Federation, which is the gold standard for coaches around the world. A couple of things about housekeeping on this call. So my presentation will be around 20 to 25 minutes. I've timed this specifically that way. And I've left a good chunk of this presentation to allow you to ask questions. So I will leave ample time in the end for your specific questions and to run an effective Q&A session. If you can just put your question in the chat, I will go through each and every one and make sure that we answer all the questions that you have. If you have a question after, all of you are connected with me on LinkedIn. You could message me on LinkedIn. You could also send me an email. You could schedule consultations. There's many, many ways to get in touch with me. So please type your question in the chat section, and I will answer it in the Q&A session. So let's get right to it. So the reason why I decided to name this presentation the LinkedIn universe is because very often it does feel like outer space and you feel lost and you're kind of fumbling around in the dark. So the first thing that I would like to say is that every letter of the word universe is going to stand for something. For many of you that know me, you know that I'm huge on symbols and acronyms. So universe is a word that you will remember forever. And each letter stands for a very important concept that I'm going to discuss with you today, which will help you become more of an expert and navigate through the universe of LinkedIn. So U stands for unite all your assets. It's very important that your resume, your cover letter, and your LinkedIn profile all tell the same story. Very often, when I look at people's resumes and cover letters, they'll say one thing on their resume and they'll say something else on the LinkedIn profile. This is imperative that you make sure that all of your assets, especially the ones that you have out there, are number one, updated, and number two, they tell exactly the same story. So if there's a discrepancy in dates, in titles, in what your objective is, and how your summary reads, someone that doesn't know you may misinterpret that as that you're not being truthful, or maybe you're confused, or any of the other reasons. So this is why I urge for all of your assets to tell the same story. So unite all of your assets. N stands for Neo Networking, which I invented this term. Neo is a new form of networking. Now, I feel that people network and they overuse this word. They just say, oh, I'm really good at networking, or I network a lot, or I spend an hour a week networking. But are you really in networking with intention? And I have something very special to say about the new form of networking is when you're networking with intention, you're actually looking to give something versus to take something. So most people, when they're networking, they're only out for themselves. They only want to recruit people to help them get jobs. And they only ask people on LinkedIn, help me get a job. I saw this job listing. Here's my latest resume. Help me, help me, help me. It's all about the job seeker. And that's why it's not a mystery that most people will just not answer you. Because you know what? It's not fair for you to place the responsibility of you getting a job on them. But if you take on a different form of networking, which I call neo networking, and you reach out with intention, with offering a helping hand, asking them how they're doing, or more importantly, offer your expertise, the chances of your network responding or your connections responding goes up exponentially, 50% or more. And if you feel shy about reaching out to strangers and offering your expertise, utilize groups, alumni organizations. Many of you went to fantastic universities. All of those universities have alumni organizations. Even if you did online certifications, all of those organizations have alumni or have people that belong to that particular group on LinkedIn. So utilize those groups to get started and get your networking under control. So you're no longer fumbling, or you're no longer reaching out to complete strangers. You're reaching out to people with intention. I stands for invest time and be consistent. One of the most important things about LinkedIn is developing a habit. So it's always on your phones, it's always on your laptops, but it's about investing the time, putting the time in your calendar, blocking out time in the evenings, blocking out time as first thing in the morning, or maybe on the weekend, but being consistent and giving yourself goals of who you're going to reach out to, who you're going to reply to, and who are you going to neo network with. So most people use LinkedIn sporadically, or they wait for people to reach out to them, or they expect miracles. When you reach out to somebody, you expect them to get back to you. That is never the case. Not everyone is consistent with LinkedIn. So that is why that's one of the first things that I teach to my clients is investing the time, and don't pray for miracles. If you are consistent, that will trump luck all the time. So one of the biggest takeaways that you can take from this presentation is blocking out time on your schedule to make sure that you're surfing LinkedIn, let's say 30 minutes a day, or you're catching up on the weekends. V stands for venture out and start to connect on a different level. So most people will reach out to their first connections. Most people will reach out to sporadically new connections or connections of their first connections. But here's a really important tip that you will walk away from this particular webinar. If you have a target list of companies, for example, you're in finance, you have Citibank, JPMC, Morgan Stanley, and so forth, and you want to work for Morgan Stanley, but you don't really know anybody there, or there's a particular vertical, let's say the mortgage group, you want to get in there and you don't know anyone there. The idea is to just connect to somebody. When they become your first connection, then it opens up a whole new universe of their connections. So all of a sudden, complete strangers who were third connections now become first connections. Now, I am never a proponent of just connecting to people for the hell of it. You can reach out to even a person who's an entry-level job at Morgan Stanley and find something in common with them. Perhaps you went to the same university, or perhaps you belong to the same group on LinkedIn, and reach out with kindness and service. Say, I look forward to being part of your network, or I see that we both belong to the same group, or I see that we both went to NYU. There's always something authentic that you can say, or even pay a compliment to somebody just so that they will connect with you. Do not send empty connections. LinkedIn actually polices that. And if you send an empty connection, let's say to a third connection, a message will pop up saying, please make sure that you know this person if you're looking to connect. So I have had a slew of clients recently who have used this tactic where they're very specific for what companies they want to work for. I have a client who wants to obtain a position in the real money gaming industry. And there's just a handful of companies that do that. So he's being very intentional when he reaches out to those companies. And he will connect to somebody just to make them their first level. And then that opens up a whole new universe of all of the upper leadership team of that company. And it's almost like he has a secret doorway into that company now. E stands for expertise. Lead with your strength. So for example, when you have your LinkedIn profile, always have a professional photo that is not a side photo, that is a straightforward photo. And if you can be in professional dress, you know, a jacket for the gentleman with a collared shirt, for the ladies, maybe a bright colored blouse with a chunky necklace. If you wear glasses, those really show up very nicely on photos. So I really urge for people to have a professional photo, not like a family photo where the other person was cropped out. And certainly do not take a photo of a photo that doesn't look very professional. But most importantly, under the photo, there is space on LinkedIn to say a few things about yourself. And it's very important. Sorry, it's very important to have a strong tagline that is connected to your purpose. So what I mean by that is that tagline is something that people see about you all the time. So it has to be connected to what you do. So if you're an executive that is committed to transformation, then put that down, that you are a leader in transforming companies. If you are a marketing expert, you can say that you empower companies through marketing tactics. If you're in technology, if you're in finance, whatever your gist is, I like to call it kind of your superpower. Like for me, I've been using things like, and I constantly change it. I've been using things like I'm the fairy godmother because I make career dreams come true. I've also, I think I have one there now is, I'm the career coach you call when you want something more. So make sure that your tagline really represents exactly what you stand for. So when someone looks up your profile, they don't need to guess. They don't need to fumble for what you're all about. Some people put their titles, like if you're senior vice president of accounting, I advise against that because that's not what you stand for. You don't stand for being a senior vice president of accounting. You stand for empowering an organization through, let's say, they call it excavation accounting or something like that. Or you empower organizations by allowing them to get better control over their finances. So if any of you have specific questions on how to come up with a tagline, please get in touch with me. Schedule a consultation. There will be a booking link at the end of this presentation, and you can, and we could come up with a tagline together. The best way that I can explain what a tagline really is, it's really a shortened version of your objective. So if your objective is to obtain a leadership role as a transformation lead in a financial organization, you can reverse engineer that and create a very powerful tagline. R stands for research companies, research the leadership teams of those companies, and research trends. So when you are putting time aside for your LinkedIn activities, please make sure that part of that time is researching companies that you are interested in working for. None of us know all the companies in the world. There's always new companies being funded. There's always new companies being launched. There's always new divisions that are spinning off from big household names. And we could never be on top of all of that. So that's why I urge you to make a habit, be in the LinkedIn universe for a set period of time, which will help you navigate and it will help you understand who are the latest leaders in your industry, what companies are dedicated to innovation, and specifically, what are the trends. So make sure to allocate time to just surf through LinkedIn to figure out where your connections went, what are they doing, what are they reinventing, and what do those companies stand for, and what do they actually do? And keep adding to your list of target companies. When I coach new clients, one of the tactics that I use is establishing a list of target companies. These are companies where you have done your research. You know that it's the right culture fit for you. You know that they have a solid leadership team, and you really want to be there. Not because they had a job opening, but it's because you researched and you truly feel that that company would be a great home for you, and you can make a contribution to them as much as they could make a contribution for you. S stands for socialize. So don't be afraid to use the LinkedIn universe to socialize and to establish new connections. Most importantly, don't be afraid to reach out to people that you do not know or to people that you should know. So many of you who know me know that I have a very silly way of explaining the 3 different pillars of people and connections. So the first pillar is the people that you know. So those are your first connections. The second pillar is people that you don't know. And those are either second connections or third connections. You simply don't know them, but you know that they exist because they may be a leader at one of your target companies. So your idea, your task and your mission is to let your first connections know about your mission and what is it that you want to do in your career, and have them introduce you or recommend you to leaders in those companies that you're interested in. So use your first connections, socialize with them in a certain way by leading with strength, and by leading with your expertise, ask them to introduce you to somebody that you don't know, so they become a second connection. And once you talk to them, they become a first connection. But then there's a third pillar, and those are people that you don't even know that you don't know. And that is why I urge you to spend the right time, invest the time on LinkedIn to research those companies, to research those leaders that you don't even know that you don't know, and just keep populating your target list of companies so that as you talk to people and as you lead with expertise and as you lead with your strengths, you will be able to ask, oh, by the way, do you know anybody at venture capital conglomerate? Would you be able to introduce me to somebody there? Do you happen to know anybody at this new startup that JPMC just launched? I'd love to get an introduction to, I wanted to say Jamie Dimon, but that's a silly example. I wanted to get an introduction to John Smith, for example. Do you happen to know them? I see that you're connected to them. Would you be able to ask them if they could use my expertise? So the idea is to constantly use your first connections to introduce you to new people that you want to know, and more importantly, to people that you should know. And lastly, E stands for elevate your influence. So whenever you are following all of these tactics that I'm describing, whenever you are active in groups, whenever you are reaching out to new people, whenever you are active in your alumni organizations, you will elevate your influence. First of all, your number of connections will grow. People will ask you to share your expertise. You will connect to new people who are creating, let's say, important content on LinkedIn, and then you can reshare that. You will just be more active in this platform. The more active you are, the more outcomes you're going to get. It's like going to the gym. If you go once a week, you will see mediocre outcomes. If you go 3 times a week, or if you go every day, then all of a sudden, your outcomes start showing up exponentially, 2x, 3x, and so forth. So if you're going to take anything away from this presentation today, I really want you to be honest with yourself and admit to yourself that I have not spent enough time on LinkedIn, A, because maybe I don't know how, or B, is because I'm not consistent. So if all of you can have a New Year's resolution in the professional sector on how to become more effective on LinkedIn, this recording will be emailed to you, and you will be able to re-listen to it, and you will be able to apply these tactics. So thank you so much for attending today. As promised, I'm leaving half of this session for Q&A. Here, for those of you that don't know me, I'm the founder of MTV Coaching. My contact information is here. And if you would like to book a discovery call with me to discuss your career plans for next year, please feel free to either visit my website, which has a ton of information, or you could use this link to schedule a consultation to discuss your career plans. So happy holidays to everyone. I'm really looking forward to speaking to you all in the new year. So let's at this point open it up to Q&A. Okay, I don't know why I made this mistake, but I did not create a full screen for the presentation. I apologize for that, Eric. This is one of the first times I'm running a webinar, so I think the content was still all there. So I think that was really easy to follow. So any other questions? I'm not seeing any Q&A. Any questions in the chat? We have a question from Anne. Suggestions on how to define our focus. Anne, I'm assuming that you're talking about career focus or your objective. I do a lot of work on gaining career clarity. If you actually go on my website, there is a downloadable tool called The Ultimate Guide to Gaining Career Clarity. And it walks you through a process where you can actually take a inventory of all of your skills, inventory of the skills that you have, that you don't have, and it gives you exercises on how you can immerse yourself so that you could try on a couple of different options in your career, which will help you define your focus. If you want to discuss that further, I urge you to book a consultation. I feel that there's a lot more to this question, so I would absolutely love talking to you about this, and I would love to help you in your quest. Okay, we have an anonymous question from what's the best way to find recruiters using LinkedIn? For Daira, somebody's saying that the chat is disabled. Can you please make sure that people are able to ask questions? What's the best way to find recruiters using LinkedIn? So here's a two-prong approach to this. So number one, as a career coach and as a former recruiter, I do not believe in recruiters being a big part of you landing your dream job. Recruiters are like real estate people. They want to make the sale and they really don't care what happens after that. I have a very powerful document that I share with many of my clients that outline the differences between recruiters and a career coach. So recruiters, all in all, will just talk to you about what they have on their plate right now. So they'll only talk to you about their current job openings. And if a job opening doesn't match what you're looking for, then you know what? They promise they're going to call you back and they usually never do. But there are a handful of really, really professional executive search firms. And since I've been in that universe for practically my whole life, I have been compiling a list by industry and by location of all the recruiting firms that check out. And if you're interested in finding more about that list, please book a call with me and we can talk about it more. We can talk about what your career plans are. And if it makes sense, I can disclose that list to you. So I hope that that answers that question. And yes, clarification. Yes, career clarity. So I hope I answered that question. Many professionals struggle with finding career clarity. They've been in one lane on the highway for a very long time, and they're not sure how to step out of that lane to take a look at the true skills that they have and how can they map it to a different role, or how can they even map it to a different profession. So I actually started perfecting this over the pandemic years when many individuals that became my clients had a set of skills in one industry, let's say hospitality, but that industry was completely shut down. So because an industry shut down doesn't mean that you have to stop working. So how do you map your skills? How do you take your strengths and weaknesses and how do you port it into another role, another profession, or honestly, into another career? So career clarity is a very complicated, task. I urge you, Anne, to download that document and then book a call with me so that we could walk through that document. The consultation is free. I will help you walk through that document and really try to offer you value. So feel free to download it and reach out to us if you have any questions. Eric, thank you so much for asking. What does MTV stand for? So MTV does not stand for the music channel, which many people mistake that for. MTV was born out of the years when I wrote my book, which is called Swimming in the Talent Pool. And many people who read it and enjoyed the vision that I was disclosing in the book about the recruiting industry and how the recruiting industry is broken. And it was my announcement to the world of becoming a career coach. I decided to take every letter from Michelle the Visionary, and that's how MTV was born. So I hope that answers that question. I don't know what this next question means or attract. So someone said this, so can you please expand on your question? We have a message from Dave. Recommendations when reaching out directly to the job poster. I've done this 12 to 15 times and have never gotten a reply. Dave, I'm sorry to hear that. I know it's very frustrating, but that is not surprising to me. Based on what I said earlier in the call, you're reaching out because you need something from them. They're a recruiter or they're a hiring manager. They posted a job. And obviously, you're reaching out to them because you want to get that job. So there's really not much in it for them. They want to take their time to go look at all the applicants. They want to be in control of this, not give the control to you. So if you want to reach out to those people and see if they could get you into the organization, I would use a completely different messaging. And if you're interested in messaging, I will not be able to give the messaging until I understand what your profession is, what are you trying to get. I'd like to see some job descriptions from you and so forth. So if you would like to book a consultation and talk to me about refining your messaging style on LinkedIn to improve people to respond to you and to improve your connections, please get back to me. I would like to add to Dave and to everybody else, when I work with clients, I mean, it's very difficult. This webinar is not about my coaching. This webinar is to help you navigate through LinkedIn. But one of the major things that I do is I actually give you a lot of the tools that you need. For example, part of working with me, I provide you with templates that you use that work because they work for other clients, not because I just say so. I provide you with actual templates that you can use to reach out to people on LinkedIn. As a matter of fact, all of you who are attending will get my pocket guide to LinkedIn, which is a collection of different messaging templates that you could cut and paste and use to reach out to people. So once this webinar is done, you will get a recording and you will get the pocket guide. And if you need any additional help after that, feel free to book a consultation. Okay, we have an anonymous person asking another question. When you reach out to a second or a third connection, should you attach a one-sheeter about you, or will they just go to your LinkedIn profile instead? So when you reach out to a second or a third connection, once again, under what pretenses are you reaching out? Are you being recommended to them by somebody that you know? Or you're reaching out because you're interested in working for that biotech, for example? It all depends as to what is your intention. Now, if you're being introduced by somebody and your connection said, go call up John Smith or go reach out to John Smith, connect with him because he uses people like you, then what I would do is, yes, I would send them a one-pager, I call it, or a branded CV. And I do have my own formula of a branded CV. I do suggest that you send a one-pager. The beauty of a one-pager, number one, it does not scream that you're desperate, that you're looking for a job. And it's not as tacky as sending somebody your resume. A one-pager is more of a brochure for your expertise. So if that second connection wants to share that asset with their connection, it's very easy for them to just save it and forward it to somebody, whether they're doing it inside the platform of LinkedIn or they're saving it and sending it to somebody by email. So I absolutely recommend all of you to have a one-pager, which is the brochure for your resume. Where can we find this recording? Dennis, this will be sent to you by email after this webinar is done. We will also upload this on YouTube. Okay, another anonymous question. The attract questions was related to the earlier question on recruiters. No need to address, as you already suggested. We come to you if we want a list of legit executive search firms. Yes, I would just like to say that I have been compiling this list for a long time. So that list is always evolving, but that is a list that I use maybe 5% of the time, because the most effective way of landing your dream job is if you create it yourself. And no recruiter or no executive search firm will do that for you. So this is what differentiates me and my system and my program from all the other coaches, is that I actually show you how it's supposed to be done and how my clients have done it to get the outcomes that they want. Just to give you an example, I'm sure that through your career, you remember when someone resigned in your group, or when your director or manager decided that you need to add a team member. What is the first thing that they did? They got a meeting in a conference room and they said to the whole team, listen, we're looking for another business analyst. We're looking for another programmer. We're looking for another person for email marketing. Do you know anybody? People love to hire people that they are recommended, or people that are a known entity by somebody on their team. Why? Because there's very little risk. When you're looking for an accountant or for an attorney, you don't go do a blind Google search, and you definitely do not put a job description on a job board. You go to your friends, you go to your network. So we know that people love to hire people that come highly recommended. And this is exactly the foundation of my program. How do you become that person who gets recommended? No one ever gets recommended because their resume is picked up from the job board. Okay? Job boards are notorious for having recruiters just post empty resumes and having imposters post other people's resumes. So hiring managers don't even know if that's a real person. So job boards is like eBay. It looks good, but you don't know what you get. And that's why a lot of reputable organizations are bringing recruiting back in-house, meaning they have their database and they have their employee referrals and they have LinkedIn Recruiter, which allows the internal company recruiter to go out there and seek out people in competitor organizations that they could headhunt out. Okay? I don't want to take up too much time about the job hiring process of organizations, but if you're interested in that, you could always write to me. It sounds like there's a big difference to contacting someone cold or doesn't have a current job opening versus reaching out to a hiring manager who already has publicly posted a job description. Yes, there is a humongous difference in that, Eric. If someone already has a job posting out there, they already went through their internal network and no one wants the job. Okay? So when you reach out cold to someone that doesn't have a current job opening, you reach out cold to them, not asking them for a job. You're asking them if they have any problems, or you're asking them to compare best practices. You're leading with strength, which is what I said earlier in the webinar. You are a subject matter expert and you're reaching out of service and kindness because you want to share your expertise. When those conversations start, that's what I meant by saying leading with intention. And you have a virtual coffee with that person, or you just continue chatting on email or through LinkedIn. They become interested in your expertise because you're asking the right questions, and they will want to talk to you. This is where my clients create the opportunity for themselves. because very often, close to 80 or 70%, I have to look up that data. These connections that were unknown or you reached out cold to them would say, Eric, what is it going to take to bring you in here? We need somebody like you. We need somebody that managed an organization through, rising minimum wages. We need a business mind like you because we have a similar problem and we don't know what to do. And we don't want to get a stranger in here. So what can you help us with? Let's talk. Or if that person you reached out cold to says, listen, I don't really have anything right now. I have a problem, but I don't have the budget. But my buddy over at XYZ has a problem. Let me introduce you. Remember, if it is a publicly posted job, that means it's already gone. It's open to the public, and the chances of you getting it are dwindling by the minute. The way that I explain this high-level concept is when you go to a concert or when you go to your favorite ball game, would you rather go in through the VIP entrance where it's like 2-3 people walking in and they have the best seats, they're close to the action on the floor? Or do you want to go in through the public entrance? And those are the cheapy tickets up on top where you don't see anything and you're just a spectator. So this is the true difference between jobs that are publicly posted and jobs that are not. It's like when you're looking for a home, you definitely want to buy directly from the owner. You don't want a listing that's been out there stagnating, which means that nobody wants it. So I hope that answers your question. Any other questions? We still have a few more minutes. Ask me anything. Maybe if you don't have a question, maybe you could share a success that you've had on LinkedIn over the last 30 days, for example. What did you try that was new on your own that worked? Just going to give people a few more minutes to ask their questions. If not, then we will end this webinar by wishing everyone an amazing holiday. I think we have one more. Dave, thank you for asking this question. Any thoughts on ageism? How prevalent is it? So I hate to admit that ageism is a thing. I hate to admit that on the back end, when I dissect the way LinkedIn Recruiter works, there is a way to filter candidates. If you're a hiring manager, if you are an internal recruiter, there is a way to filter candidates based on the years that they graduated, which shows you how old the person is. There's other ways of finding out how old the person is. I mean, obviously, if you look at education and you list the years that you graduated and so forth. So ageism does exist. There are ways to get in front of ageism. This is where my one-pager tactic really works, because many of you that have worked with me in the past know that I created the one-page branded CV, or I call it the one-pager, to masquerade your years of experience. This one-pager leads with your expertise. So if you did a really cool project at Google 5 years ago, and they want people that graduated from Ivy League in the last 5 years, my one-pager camouflages that because it talks about the project that you did without including the dates. When I help people with resumes, I have very creative ways of camouflaging your years of experience without including dates. Or many of you that have been with one company for 15 years and you don't want to disclose your age or show that you've been in one company for 15 and another company for 10. There are very creative ways to lead with other things than dates and age. But unfortunately, there are many unprofessional recruiters or hiring managers that just make assumptions very quickly. and they will skim through your resume or skim through your LinkedIn profile, and they're like, oh, this is an old timer. I only want somebody under 35 in this role. That exists. So we know it exists. We know those people are wrongdoers. Do we really want to work in that organization? The answer is no. Do we really want to be part of this trend? The answer is no. Do we want to lie about how old we are and if you're 50, work with a bunch of 25-year-olds? The answer is no. So how do we get around that? And that is to get recommended by your network, by leading with your expertise. If someone has a problem and you are an expert and you could solve that problem for you, I bet the first 100 questions they will ask you will not be about your age or the year you graduated. So this is why I urge everyone to lead with their expertise. Don't rely on your resume to do the heavy lifting. A resume is just a piece of paper without a strategy. Okay. There's an error on my website. Okay, we will look into that. Thank you for pointing that out. Having open to work in your photo is relevant. What do you think about that? So Allison, thank you for asking that question. I'm a little bit torn about the open to work. So for example, for young college graduates, I would absolutely leave the open to work. For people who are more seasoned, I would not have it there because unfortunately, it really screams desperation. And when someone is open to work, that doesn't make them more qualified than someone who is not open to work. And as a matter of fact, it's duplication because people who are not actively searching on the back end, they have an ability to turn that off. And they say that they're not open to recruiters. So they will not show up on the feed as often as people who have that toggle open. But the open to work frame, I feel, is a little bit too much in their face. I don't want them to talk to you because you are desperate to get a job or that you need a job. I want them to talk to you because they believe that you're an expert. So if you're interested, we could run a test. We can create a really powerful tagline for you, fix up your assets, see if that works. And if it doesn't work, you'd be more than welcome to use that frame again. So I hope that helps. Okay, you're asking the question twice. So I hope I answered that. Having an open to work in your photos relevant, what do you think about that? I think I answered that question already. So Daira, can you do me a favor and just grab that link and let me know why this attendee is saying that it doesn't work? That would be great. Any other questions? We have a few more minutes. Feel free to ask questions. I'll just volunteer some questions that people have been asking me over the last week or so. How much time should I spend on LinkedIn? Everyone should have it on their phones. Everyone should have the notifications turned on. And on an average, you should spend anywhere between 30 minutes to 45 minutes daily completing the tasks. Either you're posting something, either you're connecting with somebody, either you're reaching out to an X amount of people. You reach out to 10 a day, at the end of the month, that's 300 people. These numbers add up very quickly. So if you reach out to 10 daily, that's 300 people at the end of the month. Because there's 30 days in the month. If you're consistent like that, it's just a matter of time until you find somebody that needs your expertise. And when that happens, trust me, I've been in talent acquisition my entire life. If they're convinced that you could solve their problem, they will create the job for you. If they have that cumbersome situation where they have to open up a requisition and get HR involved and procurement and blah, 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 hiring managers have the ability to bring you in as a consultant. And then when the headcount opens up, they will convert you. So I've seen this done hundreds of times in my career. So I hope that helps. Let's see, we have a few more questions. William is asking, what do you think of offshore recruiters? What do I think of offshore recruiters? Do you guys have 2 hours? Because that's a whole different webinar. So offshore recruiters know nothing about the job market in the United States. I know that there are some pretty decent ones, but I would only talk to offshore recruiters if they work for internationally acclaimed executive search firms. So, for example, I know Michael Page has offshore recruiters. I know that Lehigh Harrison has Agilon, Adecco, and all of those, because obviously it's cheaper to get recruiters in India, but or Philippines or Costa Rica. William, honestly, I would not dedicate much time to it. If you're going to dedicate time, I've got 10 other things that you could dedicate your time to that will yield a higher result. So recruiters and job boards, the yield on your return of time and effort is 1%. That's just the way it is. The yield on what I do is 100%. This year, we have not had a single person that did not land their dream job or the job that they were focused on in the beginning of the engagement. We have not had a single person. So if you follow everything that I'm talking about, specifically on LinkedIn, you will get outcomes. And if you want to find out what more I do, feel free to book the consultation. But this webinar is all about LinkedIn. It's a very powerful tool if it's used correctly. Eric, do you recommend a public post on LinkedIn explaining your Do you recommend a public post on LinkedIn explaining your expertise and that you're looking for work? I think I had 2 calls from former coworkers who had jobs for me. Okay, so explaining your expertise, there are certain areas on LinkedIn where you could really highlight that. The first part is your tagline, okay? Then your about section. Then if you are, and I know, Eric, your situation is specific. If you are looking, I would not use the open to work frame. But what I would do is I would create an asset. Okay, there's a section called featured, and I would post my resume there, or I would post my 1-pager there. If you want to, I know you're in my course, and I would like to talk to you about this at the point where we are redoing your resume. So get on my calendar for that, okay? Once again, for those that may be a little bit confused with what I mean, after this call, go into your LinkedIn profile. Go into the portion of featured. If you're confused, just go into my profile and you will see all of my featured assets. I think that is a very effective way where you can put your resume, especially if you're not working. So when someone lands on your profile, they see everything that they need and they could grab your asset and forward it to somebody else. Okay? And definitely the about section can talk about what is it that you want to do in the future, or that you're looking for your next opportunity, or that you're transitioning out of your old opportunity. There's very interesting language that I use that does not scream, desperation. So Eric, we could talk about that more offline. My co-host is saying that the link does work. Maybe it's a typo, but we will share the link with the email after the webinar. Thank you, Daira, so much. Okay. Anonymous, do you think there's a value to pay premium LinkedIn? Absolutely. The free LinkedIn service does not allow you to do certain things. So I would buy the LinkedIn premium. If you are financially sensitive while you're looking for a job, I would buy it per month for the months that you're seeking for a job. And then I would go back to the free one when you land the job. But during your job seeking months, $57, or I don't know if they raised it, but that is a worthwhile investment. So definitely get the paid version of LinkedIn if you're searching for a job. How long do you think you can land for a job? Okay, Anonymous is asking me, how long does it take? For people in my program, within 6 months, if you follow everything that you're supposed to be doing. Honestly, outside of that, I'm not, measuring that data. I know it takes people years. I know it takes people close to a year. One thing I would like to tell you, you get what you put in. There are people who work full time. They put in the required hours on LinkedIn. They do it with intention. If they're fortunate enough to work with me, they follow my system and they get the outcomes. I've seen miracles happen in 30 days. I've seen a slew of people that fixed their resume according to my formula, and they still decided to post on job boards, and their resumes got picked up a lot faster than what was before. Because remember, most people use a resume. Now, this is not about resumes. I'm thinking of hosting one about resumes in the new year. This is not about resumes. But your resume cannot be a chronological order of everything that you've done. Your resume needs to be curated carefully to be the antidote to your dream job. So if a hiring manager has a need and they get your resume, they need to be convinced from your resume that you could solve their problem. They have to be convinced, and they also have to have clarity on what role you're looking for. Because if you're not in a leadership role, okay, and you're applying for a leadership role, they're going to look at your resume and they're like, oh, he doesn't have leadership experience. Sorry, next resume. So if you're trying to make that jump from non-leadership into leadership, we need to curate that. We need to show how you have been a leader in your career without having the title. Otherwise, they will just pass over your resume. Not that sending a resume is an effective strategy to get your dream job. Okay, Anonymous is asking, recommendations are important. How many? The more, the merrier. I mean, I don't know how to answer that question. Obviously, recommendations are important if they're connected to your dream job. So if someone says that Jessica had leadership qualities, I wish I had a role to promote her in, and she wind up leaving to go get her dream job, then that's a recommendation that you should have. I would start with, if you have 0, then I would get 3 right away. Okay. Do you recommend AI in any way during a job search? Yes and no. That's a very loaded question, Eric. I would love to talk to you about that offline. Daira, make a note that we should do something on AI. And Eric is asking another question. It seems LinkedIn offer that as an option. Eric, can you say a little bit more? I'm a little bit confused about this question. What do you mean? It seems like LinkedIn offer that is an option. I'm a little bit confused. Can you please explain that question? Okay. I think that is it for now. I think that we are a little bit over an hour. For those of you who have joined, thank you so much for spending an hour with me this afternoon. Happy holidays and all the best. Nice to meet you, Anna. And they offer to have them use AI for a couple of items. You mean LinkedIn? LinkedIn offers to use AI for a couple of items? Yes. What items? Like resume building or job search or what? I'll let you answer that question. Okay, Eric is looking this up for us. So AI is an important tool or an important I'd like to say arm to job seeking. I am compiling a lot of information in this space, and there will be definitely more information available in the future. I mean, let's see, Eric is saying something. Enhance your profile with the help of AI. So I would not recommend enhancing your profile with the help of AI. I would first take the time to understand what is it that you want. AI cannot help you define your dream job. I can. Now, AI can help you articulate your dream job to the world better. Absolutely. Okay. But it will not help you understand what is it that you want. Confidently draft messages with the help of AI. Honestly, Eric, you don't need to do that because I'm going to provide the pocket guide where you're going to have messages right there and then. And AI can recommend and draft messages, but guess what? We don't know if they work. My messages work. There's plenty of my current and former students in this webinar, and I'm sure that they would say how effective my messaging is. So I've provided you basically with that messaging. You're going to get the pocket guide, so you don't need AI for that. Okay. Anonymous is asking, licenses and certifications are relevant? Absolutely. Absolutely. Whatever special whatever special certifications you have, whatever special licenses you have, post them all on LinkedIn. Absolutely. Okay, I think that we're 5 minutes over, which is okay. Once again, here's my contact information. Here's my phone number. You could text me on this number. You could go on my website to take a look at all the testimonials, all my services, all my articles that I've written for Forbes, and just, it's just amazing portal of information. It's recently been redesigned. So if for those of you who haven't visited for a while, go visit. It's a really fun and powerful website. And then this is the Calendarly link to my schedule. I have some availability over the holiday time. And then January is a humongous hiring month. So if you want to gain more control of your job search, please get on my calendar. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful holiday season. All the best luck to you in the new year, and be well. Remember, the most important thing is health. So take good care, and I hope to talk to many of the new ones, many of the new voices shortly. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.